So I think that's why we get out of bed every day, right? Because it's people that put purpose into technology. And it's purposeful technology that inspires people. But we're all smart enough to know that the role, value, shape, and limits of technology will continue to unfold. The transformative shifts that we're seeing today will continue into tomorrow. Complexities will always grow, and the pressure to innovate will always be there. So the question we have to ask ourselves is how do we take control of this technological future? Well, we believe that it's up to us as people to grab it, shape it, and give it purpose. And that's what will make the difference. Over the past 6 years, we've brought together an incredible group of people. From 8 acquisitions, as far away as London and as close as here in Melbourne, with a single purpose of helping you, our customers, achieve your digital ambitions. Whether that's supporting change on an incredible digital network you'll see out there, whether it's creating agility through cloud, attracting talent with workplace solutions, achieving things you couldn't do with application development or insights about your customers in data analytics, or of course using human-centered design, creating experiences for our customers and our teams that we could never do before. My name's Chris, and I'm delighted to be here to help launch Telstra Purple. Which I have to say is the worst kept secret of Vantage. So transformation can start anywhere, but we believe that the value can only be captured through the purposeful delivery of technology that meets the needs of people. Purpose and people. But we'd all like to live a happy and healthy life. That's the dream, right? But it's not always the case. Do you know 4.3 million Australians live with a disability? The National Disability Scheme was brought to life to support 500,000 Australians who live every day with a permanent and significant disability. When living with a disability, independence is key. In fact, independence is key for all of us, right? Living with disability, independence means self-care. But the tragic fact is that only 3% of that 500,000 Australians can manage self-care, and 40% of the funding for NDIS is spent on managing care, not providing care. Wouldn't it be great if we could change that? There's an organisation called Real Support Choices that we worked with to try and change the dynamics. Their whole mission is to increase the level of self-care and put money back into care. With Real Support Choices, we worked with an amazing Australian, Peter, former AFL champion, who suffered a terrible accident at home as a quadriplegic. But due to the fact that Peter is in fact a force of nature, he's one of those 3%ers that does self-care. So working with Peter, we got a huge amount of insights into him having to manage spreadsheets and make phone calls. And can you imagine that without the use of your arms? That's a pretty challenging thing to go and do. Working with Peter, we changed the way he could access directly the doctors, the physios, the pharmacists that he needs to care, taking cost out of their business to put back into care, which is a lovely story, but it's a one-off. So if we take that onto the national stage, that's what we have to do. In 2018, the Australian government released a new vision, strategy, for the digital economy. The ACS and Deloitte study subsequent to that put that at about a $56 billion opportunity for us, for Australia, should we enact that digital strategy. It's a nation-building project, something we should all be passionate about. In fact, the foundations of it are in this room. We heard on stage, I think Mike or Andy said 30% of Australia's GDP is here at Vantage. So in fact, it's up to all of us. And in fact, if you think about it, building Australia as a digital business is your business, and making you digital leaders is our business. But our research across 3,800 people in 12 industries in 14 markets, I think I got that right, 38, 12 and 14, shows that you're twice as likely to succeed if you go beyond technology, if you engage your people, if you consider process and you partner. If you go to all 4, you're twice as likely to succeed. And that really brings to life what we see in many of our customers, but none more so than Qantas. Qantas is an amazing startup. It's not funny when you think of it like that, because you think of Qantas today, it doesn't really reach startup. But 99 years ago, Qantas started with kit planes and 3 people in far north Queensland. In the last 12 months, and Susan might correct me, I think they moved something like 52 million people around the world. What an incredible startup. But they're also a massive innovator. The first to offer business class, and soon, I hope, we all hope, the first to offer non-stop direct flights from London to Sydney and on to New York. And I've actually lived and worked in all those 3 cities, and I can tell you from personal experience that will be a game changer, not just for the airline industry, but for Qantas customers. So it's my great pleasure to invite Susan Doniz, the Group CIO of Qantas, to come to the stage with George Loden, our client executive, to find out more about how they do it. Welcome, Susan. Welcome, George. Thanks for joining us here at Vantage. So, Susan, I've got to say, 52 or 56 million people?
56.
56, sorry, I lowballed it. How do you possibly do that?
Well, before I answer that question, I just want to reflect, because the people message has really resonated with me. And in fact, I don't know if you all noticed, but the first words out of Andy's mouth was actually people versus technology. And all of everything we're talking about today is people. And with over 30 years experience in technology, I can tell you that what is the most important is putting people in the center. I'm a huge fan of human-centered design. Having people, whether it's customers or employees, at the center of everything is, for me, the key to success. So I just want to congratulate you guys for recognizing that.
Thanks, Susan.
But back to the question.
Yeah.
Firstly, leadership at Qantas is a team sport. And so I feel really privileged to be part of a team that takes it as such. And I know today Andy also talked about this being the anniversary of 50 years reaching the moon. But actually, this is Qantas's 100th year that we will be reaching people and connecting people across the country.
It's pretty amazing, right? Come on.
Yeah. And for those that are fact gurus across all of this, I thought I would just bring to bear a few examples of how we've innovated over the years.
Yeah,
and you
brilliant.
talked about a few of them, which is before we had the first world service, a jet, a B707 that flew from Sydney to London. And before this service was launched, do you guys know how long it took us to fly from Sydney to London?
A couple of days?
127 hours.
Wow.
But when we introduced this service, it got down to 70 hours.
Impressive.
And then what we did is we introduced the one-stop through Singapore that brought the 70 hours down to 21 hours. And then from there, you have all heard, obviously, about the Perth to London route. And now we're really pleased to talk about testing some flights that will fly from London to Sydney, Sydney to New York, et cetera. So you can visit all your cities
Yeah, that'd be great.
in a few days. And I must say, though, I think which is really passionate, and this is why everybody is really motivated at what they do, is technology is really at the center. I can't think of a business, a project, a program where technology doesn't underpin a lot of this work.
And how do your teams play a role in that? You've got technology right in the middle, you've got people right in the middle. How do you think about that?
Well, I think about how we're portraying our vision, and probably an important piece is just to take a step back and talk about especially the airline business, because the airline business is quite cyclical in nature. And so what we've really seen is that technology can really be the glue that drives the sustainability. So when you think about it, technology can drive the efficiency. It also can drive the scale, so you can scale up, but you can also scale down as you work through your capacity and what you want to do across it. And then the other thing, obviously, is it creates and allows for new business models. So essentially, loyalty is very much a digital business as well. So if you put that kind of in the first part, I would probably use Edison's quote, which is it's 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. which means that there's no two bits about it. It is the heavy yards and the heavy lifting, and it's the ways of working and the passion that people bring forth that actually brings the day forward. So this mindset has been really critical. So the way we talk about it internally in the organization is we say we have inspired people, leading technology, and creating experiences together. And that's underpinned by, we have essentially 4 strategies. One of the pillars is around people. The second pillar, though, is about driving value to Qantas. And in some cases, that's profit, revenue, customer experience, employee experience, costs. So it's across all of that. And then the third is obviously about driving efficiencies. And a lot of what we're looking at, which is very similar to Andy's theme, is around simplification. And then the fourth is obviously that all sits on a bed of a secure and stable operations platform. So I have to say I'm just incredibly proud of the team because they have shown persistence and resilience in all of this 24/7 operation.
Brilliant. And so on that first pillar about people, George, how are we working with the Qantas people?
Look, there's a number of ways we can look at it. We have some methodologies. We've all heard about Agile and Scrums and those sorts of methodologies to get to it. But as Susan said, it's been working with, and I can see a couple of the Qantas team members out there working with the team around creating a connection. It's a better way of working. And by using the methodologies of the background, the Agile methodologies, yes, it's providing us a framework. But without that connection of being able to work together, we can't do anything. And that's just the day-to-day to the big projects to making the business operate. So it's combining the two together, the people with the methodologies, which make it work.
Yeah, brilliant. And so, well, while we've got you, George, so we obviously have a broad engagement with Qantas, but what are we going to do next? We've got to put the pressure on you, George.
Yeah, exactly. Look, there's a lot of things we're working on at the moment with Qantas and, some big transformation projects we've got going. But to give you a bit of complexity scale, I guess, which Susan was talking about beforehand, which I sort of wake up most mornings and think about, it's over 160 sites that operate anywhere from the head office organisations through to the remote sites out at Uluru. And these need to be connected. In addition, a single flight takes off every 34 seconds, is a quote from Alan Joyce. So
no pressure, George.
Yeah, no pressure, right? It's a complex business and we feel it within the Telstra organisation as well. So recently we've embarked upon a large project to roll out probably one of Australia's largest Cisco SD-WAN technology environments. We're just kicking off that transformation at the moment. And yes, it's going to take a lot of people to put this together, but the technology behind it is about making your business more efficient. So we were able to work on those remote sites, 160 sites, be able to scale out the environment, make adds, moves and changes as we need to do them much more efficiently. That saves people time and obviously helps drive cost efficiency within the business, and that's a key driver for all organisations today.
And going a bit off piste, so Susan, rather than ask you how we are to work with, a bit of a loaded question here at Vantage, I'm sure you'd all agree. How do we go? I mean, Cisco is obviously a big partner. We obviously have to partner together. How do we go working together?
Yeah. So again, I refer to kind of the keynote, which is the gentleman came up and talked about the Australian heritage, and he talked about this combined purpose. And I think that's really what resonated, is we have these 2 iconic Australian brands, and we're coming together to do something really massive on a world stage that, quite frankly, hasn't been done before. It's a first of. And I remember talking to the team, and I said to them, I'd love it if we were a case study somewhere eventually around how 2 great brands can come together to really challenge themselves. And I really think of this as a partnership. And as a partnership, what we constantly do is we're challenging each other.
Yep.
So that we're not complacent. But then the next words out of our mouth after challenge is support. So how can we support each other? And you can write anything you want on a piece of paper, but it's the attitude that people come to bear, the persistence, the will, the desire to succeed, to make these the flights take off every 34 seconds, which has really made me very excited about how we're working together.
That's fantastic. And when you think about that, that would be great and here's we get to lock in next year's presentation. Wouldn't it be good to come and do a case study on this project, George, when it's successful in 12 months' time?
Yes,
There we
we
go.
need to deliver success first, and then we can start talking about it. Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Take you up on that.
Good
Susan.
answer.
So if we flick back to innovation, you know, you're constantly in the press. We talked a bit about innovation before. We hear about, you know, amazing fuel efficiency using AI. You know, you're always thinking about innovation. You're always looking for the next thing. I know it's not even a closed theatre, is it? It's an open theatre in an open forum. Is there any kind of peek behind the corner of the curtain you're willing to share around innovation?
Well, I think what I can talk about is maybe two sides of innovation, which is the sexy side, but also the important side, which is sometimes people see innovation as that next cool thing, and I will certainly talk about that. But sometimes innovation is just about doing what you're doing better and faster and more efficiently. So an example of one of the things that we are doing is over the last 18 months, we have reorganized into kind of end-to-end teams. And what we're doing now is we pressure test everything we do against things that we call the 5 levers. So the first lever is resource efficiency. So is everybody sitting down in the room that can consume a pizza, kind of that rule of thumb, so that we don't have overlap roles or we've got one of everything. The second thing we look at is actually very relevant to our Telstra, is how do we look at delivery options? So how do we look at our partnerships? The third piece that we're looking at is simplification. So I know sometimes it's about this next big thing and the next great thing, but sometimes it's about removing.
That's what everyone's waiting to hear, right?
Yeah. Removing some things versus adding them. And then the fourth is also around the reuse. So also what we're looking at is how can we reuse our APIs and data across the group? And the fifth is about how do we deliver value earlier? So that's kind of one side of innovation. The other side of innovation is the more, newspaper-worthy things. And I think you've all heard about the work that we're doing in the future. But I don't know if you know that the highest scoring route for customers right now is the Perth to London route.
Wow.
Okay.
That is pretty impressive considering it is actually also our longest route.
Yeah.
So the fact that our customers score that as the best route is really impressive. And so when we think about what we've announced in terms of where we're trying to bring to bear this direct route, we're looking at it not just from the lens of being able to execute it operationally, but also to create the best kind of customer experience we can. And having said that, I have to say, the peak around the corner is technology will be everything in that challenge.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Thank you, Susan. So we might switch gear a little bit. We'll keep you guys here. Susan, Qantas and Telstra both pride ourselves on supporting Indigenous culture, right? And want to bring to stage someone very special. And so Michaela Jade, come on up you come, is the founder and CEO of Indigital. So Michaela,
Yes.
tell us about Indigital.
So Indigital is a company that I created 4 years ago that looks at the possibility space of combining cultural intelligence, so cultural skills and knowledge around land, language and law, and digital intelligence, which is skills and knowledge around the digital environment, and to see what could happen using cutting-edge technologies to share, preserve and proliferate Indigenous cultural knowledge systems.
It's pretty fancy.
Yeah, it's
pretty
really
cool.
fun. So we do 3 things. The first thing is we do augmented and mixed reality storytelling through HoloLens, which is our piece of work where the right person at the right place at the right time is telling the right story on country or through Indigenous art or through Indigenous objects. And that is an intercultural piece of work that we do. So trying to bring together Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people to have a common understanding of the places where we live. The second piece of work is partnering with Telstra Purple and Microsoft Australia in delivering a national digital skills program for K-12 students across Australia, where we work with traditional owners, education departments, supporting partners to teach kids and communities how to make augmented and mixed reality storytelling themselves. And the third program that we do is Digital Custodians for Communities, where we work primarily with Indigenous women in remote communities to teach them cutting-edge skills.
So, Michaela, how do you make it self-sustaining? Because we were talking before, weren't we, about the business model behind it.
That's something I really struggled with for a very long time, because a lot of the work in cutting-edge technology is R&D, and it's bespoke, and it relies on bringing different teams together to create content. So something that we did with Microsoft and Telstra Purple recently was deconstruct what we were trying to achieve and look at different technologies that could help us support this work. And one of those was using AI to help progress the animation piece of augmented mixed reality.
Amazing. And reaching schools in
remote communities and regional communities. So yeah, most of our work is on country with communities that are outside urban environments.
Fantastic. I think what it shows us is, it's bringing together cultural elements, solve a social purpose, but the amazing part about this story for me is it's the business model behind it. It's simplifying the development cycle, so no developers needed. That was the piece that came out before when we were talking, that will make this a self-sustaining program and reach all of our remote communities, which is pretty amazing. Hey, so thanks very much, Michaela, George, Susan. I think, Michaela, one last thing. You were just at the United Nations, actually, one prompt I forgot to go to. Do you want to tell us what happened at the United Nations?
Yeah, so we were invited to the United Nations, and Telstra Purple came along with us to the UN, and we were able to address the the Economic and Social Council at the UN to inspire First Peoples from around the world to explore cutting-edge technologies to help them in their own communities to primarily preserve language. So, for an example, in Australia, there were around 600 dialects, with around 70 that are currently spoken, and Australia has the fastest rate of language extinction in the world. So we're really looking at how technologies can help preserve language, but also get people speaking those languages again.
I think we actually got a photo of you.
And
the gentleman in the photo with Michaela in the Ron Burgundy style jacket is Tatham Oddie, who leads our workplace and digital apps business.
Yeah.
And so have you been invited back now?
We have. So we've been invited back in April with Microsoft and Telstra to work with the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. So they would like us to run a week-long program with some of the 2,500 Indigenous peoples that will travel to New York next April.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And you can all go and see a live demonstration. Michaela's holding the message stick and see the application on our Telstra Purple stand. I'd encourage you to go and look. It's a pretty exciting experience. It's the future of education.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks.
Whether your purpose is cost effectiveness, whether it is creating agility, engaging your workplace, attracting talent, freeing up capacity in your budgets to invest, if you start with a purpose, you can get the outcome you're looking for, and we are purpose-built to help you try and do that. Thanks very much for coming and being part of our story today. Have a great Vantage.